Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Um, First thing I want to tell you all is that when you're going to different places, that's why SBM or passport bro. One reason that it is going to be a bit more dangerous to be a passport bro than SYSBM is because with SYSBM, it's about an inheritance and a legacy. It's about family, so that's marriage. And when you go somewhere and you marry, or you at least seek to marry the women of that region, you are not cheapening the people by marrying the women from amongst them. Now, some Arabs tend to think of it that way, but most people around the world don't see you trying to marry the women from their country as being as an insult to them or cheapening them. When you go to any place in any part of the world and you're just trying to fornicate, then there will be men who either don't care one way or another, because with whom you fornicate is an individual thing, or there will be men who will say, you're not going to do that here because that is an attempt to cheapen the women. And if you cheapen one gender of a particular country, you will cheapen both genders. So if especially people from sexually conservative societies, they're more likely to see it that way. Generally speaking, the easier it is to fornicate with their women, the more difficult it is for their men to fornicate or marry. So that's something that's going to be in the subconscious minds of many people. Danny Flight Madness was in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is not like many other places. He was at a club on one hand, at a bar or a club. There may have been alcohol present, but there will be people in these places that will say, well, if you're going there for anything else, then there won't be a victim. So therefore, we won't really police that. But if you start getting with our women, we're going to fight you. And they can be provoked to fight you because a woman chose you. I don't fully understand that mindset. I didn't grow up with it, but I have heard about it. Even here, there was some, in some of these villages in Saudi, there would be some places where Saudi wives would try to get some with some Sudanese workers that would be working near them. We're talking villages away from cities. And, some Sudanese men have vanished or they have run away from where they were working, and they vanish either because they get away from that village and away from that woman to save their lives, but they can't leave the country either. So they just have to sort of live underground, if you could say, financially speaking, live where they can manage to live without any ID, or they maybe they manage to leave the country. And then, of course, sometimes they may get jumped on by several Saudi men, and then buried. There are villages here where the wife can try to come on to one of the male employees of her husband, and the husband and will do nothing to the wife. He will punish the male that was advanced upon. There are villages here that are like that. So there are some places where a lady could flirt with you, or a lady could come on to you, and they're going to go at her and at you because in their mind she's supposed to know not to try to get at you, and you were supposed to know to politely decline. There are some people who think this way. Some people think this way because of tribe or ethnicity. An example of that would be some of these Bedouin Arabs that are very tribal in these villages. Another example of that would be those Serbians that jumped on and beat Bakari Henderson to death in Greece. And under Greek law, none of them could be convicted of murder, so they got convicted of the fight, but not the murder. All because a Serbian girl approached him. Another example might be the Kazakh guy that was getting aggressive with Flight Madness. But it may also have been that it was not about tribe or race, more than likely because Kazakhstan is a Muslim area. And I know of an African American that goes into Kazakhstan. He's building Freedom Nation. I believe Kazakhstan is where he's doing this at. And let me tell you this. The Kazakh people don't just go looking for racial conflict. They don't have enough exposure to people of other races to even want to do that. But the Kazakh people are Muslim. And it is a rule in Islam, even if you drink and you smoke and you do things Muslims ain't supposed to do. One hard and fast rule is that Muslim women are not to be intimately involved with non-Muslim men in or outside of marriage. There is not to be that sort of intimacy. That is understood. I mean, there's an explicit rule. For one, fornication categorically is out of the picture. And Muslim women cannot be Islamically married to a non-Muslim man. So that means that there is no reason for a Muslim woman to be intimate, isolated, in seclusion, or what might lead to fornicating and intimacy with a non-Muslim man. There's no reason. For her to be alone with a non-Muslim man, that non-Muslim man needs to be a relative of hers, like her brother or her dad, uncle, nephew, grandparent. So that already precludes intimacy right there. So then that leaves no reason, no excuse. Now, some Muslim men don't know that non-Muslim men don't know this. Some Muslim men know that non-Muslim men don't know this. So they may go and check the woman and be like, look, suppose he doesn't know. What are you doing? There are Muslim men who think that all non-Muslim men know this. So they would sit up and say, okay, hold up. Now, what are both of y'all doing? Sometimes some men would say, well, both of you are wrong, but I'm only allowed to fight with the man, so they go to the man. However, in some parts of the world, I mean, I'm going to tell you straight up, if you go into Lebanon and the woman's a Lebanese Christian, but some Lebanese man just doesn't like you being with one of the local women, I don't fib a guck. Curb stomp that dude. because they're not superior to other people because they're Lebanese. They're not inferior because they're Lebanese. A Lebanese guy might have a problem, not because she's Muslim and you're not. He might have a problem because there are a lot of Christians there. He may have an issue because you're not Lebanese, or it may be because you're not Arab at all, or it may be because you're black, or it may be because it could be anything. You uppercut him, knock him out, then okay, you know what? That was some old ethnic bias this dude was on. Go on ahead. I don't care. Or not. In other words, whatever you do, I just don't really care. I'm not involved. But when you are around Muslim women, you have a particular way you must behave. We Muslim men have to behave correctly around Muslim women, even if she's loose. If you ain't Muslim and you are around Muslim women, there is a way for you to behave. Don't ogle them. Don't stare at them. Even that. Because when it comes to Islam, there are Muslim men who do not give a rat's behind about what race she is or what race you are. But if they find out that she's Muslim and you're not, and you're intimately involved with her, or even in just you're alone with her, you kissed her or something like that, they're going to, they're going to jump you. I'm supposed to do it. If I catch it, I'm supposed to get up on you about that. Now, I live in a place where I wouldn't see something like that. And if I did see it, with my sinuses in my back, I'm not sure I'm required to bring further injury to myself for that. I don't know. I don't know what the rule is, but what I am telling you is that the default is that, yeah, I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to. That's the default ruling. It's nothing personal. It ain't about race. It ain't about nothing to do with any human ancestry. It's about what you believe and what she believes. Muslim women are not for non-Muslim men. That is not racial. It is not personal. It is not national. It is not tribal. It is not about class. It is not financial. It is completely ideological, religious, spiritual. It's business. It's just the rules. And even Muslim men are not for most women. We are limited to marriage with Muslim women and women of a revealed faith that is related to our faith, i.e., a practicing Jewish woman or a practicing Christian woman. And when we say practicing, that means she's not fornicating as well. It includes that. She ain't a fornicatress. So even we are bound by certain rules. It's not anything to do with race. It's not because you're not an Arab. It's nothing to do with that. It ain't got nothing to do with that. It's not about a bias. Well, at least not a bias based on anything that is involuntary in the circumstance of birth. It is strictly about a commonality between what she believes and what you believe. So, what happened in Kazakhstan could happen to anyone. I want you all to keep that in mind. Like I said, it ain't personal. It could happen to anybody. If they can surmise that you aren't Muslim because the country you're from is not a Muslim country, and you are dancing with one of the women from there, it is not the same as talking to them and interviewing them and holding a microphone up to them so they can talk. It's not the same thing. You are dancing with them. That is when they probably will jump in. To be honest, there'll be some women that might do that. They may step in and say to her, "Get your behind out of here." We taking you away from this dude. And I've stated this before. If you are if you're SYSBM and you're already about marriage, you probably will have heard about these things and you get to bypass a lot of that. But if you're a passport bro, you may be looking for marriage or just to date and fornicate. And when you were doing that, you had to keep this in mind. You are going to have to take Muslim women of any race off of that menu. And the loose Muslim women that may be trying to get at you and interested in you, you also going to have to take them off that. Take them off that list. Because if she's Muslim and she's willing to be alone with you, that's already a red flag. There's something wrong with her. Those are some problems she got you don't want, and you about to share them with her. That's the other thing too. You may come across some of them and their tour guides. That's business. Pay that fair wage, listen to the tour, ask the questions that come to mind. That's how you do it. You're going to come across some that are going to be your doctor or your patient, pharmacist or something. Okay, conduct a transaction with them. And it's okay to be polite. And she's probably going to be polite. And that's all fine and dandy. But on the flip side, I'm going to tell you that when it comes down to something that is intimate, take them off. Even if they're wearing tight clothes and they're giving you the eye or they winking at you or something like that. If you know that she's Muslim and she ain't supposed to be doing that, and she looks at you and winks at you, you when you see her doing it, you look and you shake your head no. That's enough right there. She winks at you or something like that, shake your head no. Now, if you don't know she's Muslim, you don't know. But if you do know and she's doing that, she's trying to get at you, you shake your head no. And she's wondering why, you just be like, see, that goes against your own rules. You got your own rules to follow. What you breaking them for? And I'm not saying that for a selfish reason of mine. I'm married. I can't afford to marry 2 or 3 or 4. I'm not doing bad financially, but I can't afford that. Don't want that kind of headache. I got a good wife, and I'm very sure that I wouldn't be able to treat another woman equal to how I treat her because she treats me better. So I don't have something that I gain from this personally, individually. But I do gain, one thing I do gain from this is I don't have to see men of my race being jumped on by men of my religion, and the men of my religion will follow in the rules. Because see, eventually, if some of you do get into this and you find out that it's a religious conflict, you're still going to come to me and be like, "Well, Jet Black, I know I know they're the same religion as you, man, but they jumped on me. And which one you gonna choose? Your race or your religion?" Eventually, some of you are going to be bad sports about getting your butt whooped, and you're going to come to me and any other black Muslim you know, and you're going to tell us to choose between our religion and our race. That's not a choice because they're not mutually exclusive. It's no more mutually exclusive. As a matter of fact, they're less mutually exclusive than telling a white guy to choose between his whiteness and his Christianity. This fits us better than Christianity fits even them. But some are going to come with that mess because they got their butts whooped, maybe by one or maybe probably by more than one. And most of the time, these men are not looking for a fight. What they want is simply for you to obey the rules. Now, Flight Madness lives in China. I don't know how much he knew about these rules But since the question has now come up about what Kazakhstan is like, I'm going to tell you, I don't think, one thing I do know is this. I don't know how many Kazakh people are just checking for black folks and want to marry them. What I do know is that in Kazakhstan, if one person, man or woman, wants to marry someone black, nobody else is going to sit up and say, ew, why would you marry somebody black? They're not Arabs. It's not like that. If she likes black men, fine. Is he Muslim though? Now she finds a black man and he's Muslim and they're compatible. Her friends ain't gonna ask her why you marry a black dude. They may ask what it's like, but they're not gonna ask why did you, like something's wrong. That's not their mindset. And I haven't met Kazakhs, but I know from an African American Muslim guy who's building Freedom Nation that they're not like that. Because I've met the man that's building Freedom Nation. He is not a liar. There is also the same thing when it comes down to the men. If a man is going to marry a black woman, the men are not going to sit up and be like, why did you marry a black woman? Now, they may ask, which culture does she come from? What's her language? Are they compatible? Culturally speaking, are y'all compatible? They're not going to ask because of the color. They're going to ask because of culture and language. If they're even going to ask that. A lot of the men don't really want to get too personal and ask too many questions that are none of their business. But he's not going to be blamed because he married a black woman. That's not their idea. Largely to them, it's because they don't see black folk as being something other than human. They don't have that mindset. Now, they may know that there's such a thing as racism, but the Kazakhs are not like the white Russians. And white Russians can treat black folks well. I don't think they want us to become the majority in their countries or be in their government, but they can treat us well. They know how to do it. They did it when there were Africans that were in the Ukraine. They said, you know what, you can go into Russia, we'll repatriate you back. The war is not against you. That's what happened. So they can do it. And if they can do that, and the Kazakhs don't even have this idea that you're other than human and they don't hate you, then why would they want to fight you based on your race? It's not that. As I've stated, there are some parts of the globe where maybe they don't know much about you, but they don't have anything against you. There are some parts of the globe that are like that. And I don't want us making enemies where we didn't have them before. You guys ever noticed that I don't talk bad about Sri Lanka, but I tell you that India is not a place you want to go trying to check for chicks? Or Pakistan, I tell you about those places because of their anti-black views. You don't hear about it in Sri Lanka. Y'all ever notice that? You haven't heard me say bad things about Bangladesh because Bengali people don't walk around with these anti-black notions. That's why you don't hear me talking bad about them. You don't even hear me telling you step aside and avoid them. But now let's understand this. If she's Muslim and you're not, leave her be. There have been some women from there that have wanted black men that were not Muslim in other countries, and their families had to disown them for running off with a non-Muslim man, not because these men were black. I know of more than one instance in which when a black Muslim was looking to marry, some of them came forward and said, listen, we have a cousin that's single. I'm aware of this. I know that this has happened more than once. Black men, they don't have an anti-black view. Now, some people have disagreed with me about that, but I've gotten to know quite a few people from that nation. We good. The people that used to fight them, Pakistanis, will tell you that they were sweet and innocent people and they didn't start that conflict. So the nation against which they went to war, another Muslim nation, no less, against which they went to war because that nation wanted to fight them, is filled with people that admit that they started that conflict, not Bangladesh. To give you an idea as to how they are, they don't look for stuff. They don't look for smoke, let alone fire. There are going to be parts of the planet where your people will actually be neutral about your race. They're not very common, but they do exist, and they tend to be pretty far out of the way. But there are places like that. However, there is still a religious element to whom you pick. And it is nothing personal. If you are white and you're not Muslim and you mess around with a Muslim woman, you're going to catch them hands. And I wanted to clear this up. I was talking about this a while ago, but I don't think the message got out because a lot of people were in the comment section of BMT's live just kind of saying anything. And no, man, get it together. Learn what the actual rules are. Nobody gets to travel to every place, but you'll know people who did travel to a particular place, and they'll tell you if you ask them. So what they like and how are they like about us? And you'll find out. And man, I mean, you just gotta. It's sometimes you just gotta remember things that you already know. That's all. Like, you know what? Thailand has Muslims in the south. It's not a Muslim country, but they do have Muslims in the south near Malaysia. But Thailand's not a Muslim country, and other countries aren't Thailand. And some people, they hear about Pattaya, and they hear about a particular part of Bangkok, and they hear about maybe Phuket, and so they're thinking, okay, well, you know what, Thailand is those places, and the other places nearby are Thailand. Maybe some people get this notion, and then when they find out that you can go somewhere that is a short flight away from Thailand compared to the time it takes to get there from here or over there in the States, where many of you were listening. But, you find out that you could, relatively short flight from Thailand could put you in a place where the same behaviors will get your behind whooped. Then people become surprised and shocked, and they start trying to speculate. And the whole time you could have merely asked somebody who knew. What was that about? Well, guess what, man? Here's what it's about. No, they don't hate our race. They don't know of a reason to hate our race. But it is about religion. You can't be of another religion involved with, let alone married to, a Muslim woman. Nothing personal, nothing racial. It's just the rules for every woman. For every Muslim woman. She ain't allowed to be involved with you. And I'm going to tell you now, in Iran, there was a law they had, and they might still have it, I don't know, but there was a law they had. In Iran, if you were a non-Muslim man and you fornicate with a Muslim woman, they'll kill the man. She's punishable for fornication, but the man is subject to a capital punishment. He was. I don't know what the rules are now. The last time I heard about that actually being an issue was a German man that was on trial. Now, his defense was he had become Muslim, so he was only guilty of regular fornication. And that he was supposed to be flogged for that, but not for being a non-Muslim that fornicated with an Iranian woman. That was his defense. I don't know what the verdict wound up being uh, later on. I really don't know. I don't know what happened. I just know that Iranian law had that. And you know what? Like, again, that wasn't nothing racial and it wasn't personal. They didn't put that man on trial because he's German. They put him on trial because as far as they knew, he wasn't Muslim, but he said that he had already converted to Islam, actually. But here he was from Germany and Iran, and if they convicted him, they were gonna execute him too. And no, he wasn't a black German either. So there are gonna be some times where it's not gonna be about race. And in order to really know when it is and when it's not, you just have to really, really know about these countries beforehand. And if you are a passport, bro, and you were looking for some trim, then you got to really know how conservative about intimacy the folks where you're going to go were going to be. You got to really know that. Really got to keep that in mind. And if you do know and you don't break those rules, you'll be all right. I hope that this helps moving forward. Thank you for listening. As always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Black Out. Assalamu alaikum and Black heterosexual, non-select male power just because they don't like it, and Black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with me again here on Jet Black Airways. And don't forget to go and check out the business and the first class sections of Jet Black Airways at Buy Me a Coffee. Link is in the About page and in the description. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.